Hi guys, hope you're good. This is my Fibro Friday video of the week. I didn't really have time to announce it. I've been so busy, but I always do it on Friday, and here I am. So today, really, it's gonna be a short one. I just want to talk about a few sort of anecdotal things that will hopefully help raise awareness around certain aspects of fibromyalgia or fibromyalgia related issues. And I just hope, as usual, that they just help somebody. So first anecdote to share is, as some of you have seen, I've been working out. I've been trying a new routine, and I've been doing some sort of like kickboxing stuff. Honestly, it's great. It's a real struggle, and I know a lot of people out there with chronic illness would probably never think of doing something as hardcore. But let me tell you something that will probably surprise you. It's it's not like the kind of exercise that you're thinking. Like, it's the impact that it has in your body, and the way you do it is completely different. Like, I don't know, going to the gym and running on the treadmill or trying to do some weights or whatever. Like, the impact I'm having from this is very minimal, which is something that people with fibromyalgia need, and people with many other chronic illnesses, mostly musculoskeletal disorders or autoimmune, like rheumatoid arthritis or stuff like that. Honestly, it's really, really, really important that you find the right balance for you. But this is really working out for me because I'm not getting to do too much cardio. It's just the right amount of cardio. And a lot of the stuff that I have to do for this actually really has to come, it really comes with controlling your breathing. And I know that sounds really like a strange thing to say, but controlling your breathing is super important when you have things like fibromyalgia or even other chronic illnesses or mental health problems, particularly because breathing actually helps us, control our fatigue, control our pain levels and things like that. So if nothing else, it's actually giving me an edge on how to, control that aspect of my illness that otherwise I probably wouldn't have known. I had similar experience when I was doing Tai Chi. Tai Chi is very good for fibromyalgia, 100% recommended, very low impact. And again, you need to think about breathing and how you breathe. And I think one of the reasons why it's so important, why it really helps people with chronic illnesses, is because we breathe all the time. Like, we do it automatically. We don't need to think about it. But it's so crucial to how our body reacts, moves, thinks, everything. So once you kind of understand that and you realize the control that you have, or how that breathing actually impacts the rest of your physiology, you learn your body better. You learn to work around it and work with it rather than against it, which is, super important when you have a chronic illness. So that's kind of one of the things that this change of exercise has been really good for. Another one is that it's actually working out a part of my body that I've always had problems with, which is my tiny little arms. So I've always struggled, right, with my upper body strength, but this is generally helping. And again, it's completely natural movements. You're not, it's not like when you have weights or stuff that you are repeating a specific, like, motion that could deteriorate that joint or whatever. The entire point of this exercise is not actually punching things hard or anything. So if you think that you need to have a lot of strength, that's not the point of this. It's not punching or kicking the hardest that you can. It's just getting the movement across. So the repetition actually comes from just doing a natural movement, which is like an extension or a contraction, whatever, and do it, a series of times and repeat it. Obviously, if you can get power behind it, then great. But if you are thinking about it and you are not sure whether it's for you or not, it's not about that. At least not if you're doing it for like what I'm doing it. I'm not trying to be an MMA fighter. I'm just trying to be better with my fitness. A lot of the time we work in very short bursts, which actually works really well for me. I think sometimes when you have like a class or a gym workout or something, you just go from one thing to the other. And that's kind of what becomes really terrifying for the fatigue or the pain. But because we work in short outbursts and we take a breather and we come back and we take a breather, it helps the body. Like, it's not so much of a shock because it is controlled and it is measurable. And I think that's something as well that a lot of people with chronic illness need to understand, that less exercise, but in a controlled environment, under a specific amount of time, is better than no exercise at all. So, again, I'm not saying you have to do this thing that I'm doing or anything else. I'm just giving you some tips that generally help. Like, we actually had the timer yesterday to know how long the sessions were, or if you're training with a partner or whatever, and they count you out, it helps building that resistance, and not just the resistance, but the resilience. And honestly, I think this is probably the best thing about training with someone who understands my illness and who wants to help me, because you actually have someone there who is looking out for you, right? When doing any kind of exercise, any kind of fitness thing, there is a chance, big or small, that you could get hurt, or that you could do something that is gonna end up bad for you. By training with somebody, you have that security element. You know that someone is there whatever happens to you. So I think that's really good for people in our situation. It's almost like it doesn't just depend on you controlling yourself. You know that you have somebody out there that is looking out, not just for your illness in general, but for any other kind of injury, but also someone who's rooting for you. And I know that sounds really silly, but we live such isolated lives. Sometimes when we have chronic illness, it's very easy to find ourselves detached and feel like nobody is actually rooting for us. Nobody cares. When you're training with someone, that goes away, because that person is there for you. You know what I mean? Like, they've done that commitment to you, whether it's a friend or someone you've paid for this, they've done that commitment to you. For that person, during that amount of time, you matter. You are the priority. And it's such a huge boost. Like, honestly, even if it's just purely from a mental health point of view, it is such a boost knowing that is there. It genuinely helps. And then, if they're encouraging and they generally are trying to get you to see the benefits and to get better, it's so much nicer. It doesn't feel like a struggle. It just feels like you're genuinely trying to accomplish something, and someone is there saying, come on, one more, you can do it, come on, just 5 more seconds or something like that. Not to put pressure on you, but to make you realize that goal, that's something that you're trying to achieve, it is there. You just need to follow through. And it honestly, it's so good. Even if it's just for that, I can't explain it in any other words. Like, I'm not going for hours on end or anything like that. The longest session that we've had has been an hour, and that was enough for me to be like, I'm going to bed. Bye. But honestly, it makes such a difference. It genuinely makes such a difference. I can't emphasize that any more than that. So if you are considering what you can do, honestly, I would suggest maybe try something like that within your capabilities, because it genuinely will help. Another anecdote, and something that a lot of people don't understand, this is going to be a bit more morbid, so just warning you, really. Sometimes there are strange side effects to our illnesses. Not everyone understands them, and they can be quite scary. And I actually suffered one of those yesterday. I'm not saying this to scare you guys. I'm just saying this to, put things into actual consideration. So you may have noticed I don't have my braid anymore. It had to come off, obviously. But as I was doing so, I also noticed that I was molting a lot of hair. Now, something that a lot of people don't know is that with fibromyalgia, you can lose a lot of hair. And now, in my case, it's very likely that the hair loss was because of the braid. It had been there for a while, and I had to remove the extensions and whatnot. But, I had another previous incident when I was a lot younger, actually, when this originally started, when I was like 17, 18, when I used to have lustrous, long, full head full of hair, and disappeared. Like, it disappeared. Like, I don't have bald patches or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that. But your hair, the same that like the quality of your nails, suffers a lot when you have a chronic illness of any kind, and with fibromyalgia as well. And it's something that a lot of people don't get to see or don't think about. but that can have a serious negative impact in your confidence and just in general, like for your sake. Like genuinely, I did freak out when I just kept on seeing hair and hair and hair falling off into the drain. I genuinely thought like, is it gone? Like, am I going bald? And I don't care. I could wear a wig or I could do anything else. Hey, Wagon Fun, hope you're doing okay. It's not because like I want to look a certain way or whatever, but obviously at the time it seemed like an actual physical consequence of something that I have to deal with every day. It's the same for people who suddenly go through a lot of stress and they suddenly may go gray or they start losing hair because of that. It's not a joke. I've heard so many people get mocked for things like that, but it can be a serious issue, whether it's from the point of view of self-confidence or self-image, or just another physical marker that your illness has an impact in your body that you didn't expect or that you didn't anticipate or wanted to come to terms with. So I actually had that, and it wasn't fun. It actually made me very, very anxious and self-conscious. And I know that it seems like little things like that, but what you guys need to understand, a lot of people with chronic illness have struggled sort of considering, is that when you already have a chronic illness with a specific pattern or a specific set of symptoms and something new happens, you can't help but wonder, crap, did this get worse? Like, am I getting worse? Or did something else happen? It's very hard to stop that feeling of alarm from happening because, it takes so long to adapt and to adjust and to accept that you have these symptoms. So when something else comes along, it almost feels like the world is about to end. I know that sounds really dramatic, but legit, that is how it feels. Like, oh my God, something else. And particularly if it has a physical affectation that is visible, it is genuinely a reminder that you are ill and you're not getting better. So it's I think that's something that people from the outside world, like not part of the chronic illness community, struggle a lot to sort of realize and identify and know what to do about. So I'm just trying to give you a little insight essentially as to how that feels and why for us it could be terrifying. Even if it's as simple as all of my nails are peeling, my skin seems to be molting a lot, my hair seems to be falling a lot. It's not because of vanity, it's because it gives you that sort of sense that something else is up, and it's not very nice. So there you go. On top of that, I ended up actually passing out, which is not fun. It's not necessarily fibromyalgia related. I do have low blood pressure, and I was in the shower when this was happening. Clearly, I did struggle regulating my body temperature, but I think I sort of freaked out a little at the amount of hair that was coming off my head and all of that sort of joint. And with the rise in temperature, I pretty much black out for a moment. But that is also a part of fibromyalgia, because of the neuropathy. If your brain doesn't fully understand what's happening, the chemical reactors are not and receivers are not sending information properly, we do tend to feel dizzy or dazed quite often, I would say. It's definitely a problem for me, and I know for a lot of people that have fibromyalgia as well. And it can be dangerous. That's the reason why I did that video a while ago about how different places in the household can be a risk or a benefit for someone with a chronic illness, or someone with a specific condition. And the bathroom is probably the scariest part of the house for someone with fibromyalgia, because, for example, if you're having a shower and you're careless, I could have, if I didn't notice, like if I didn't realize the signs that I'm aware of that I was about to pass out, I could have ended up pretty bad. It wouldn't have been pretty or pleasant. So again, this is what I mean. We constantly have to be aware of stuff that we shouldn't have to be aware of, or that people don't even have to think about, or most people don't think about, and it can be quite exhausting. But I mean, I'm all well, honestly. All that happened was that my brain was like, oop, we need to reboot, and it just rebooted, and then I was fine. Something that happens normally after I have a dizzy spell or I actually faint, and this may be of help for anyone that goes through it, is that my body generally struggles a lot to adjust to just a stimuli overall. So I can't tell whether I'm hot or cold. Like, I felt I was so warm, but all of my hairs in my hair were clearly having goosebumps. It took me like an hour and a half to warm up, which is a really long freaking time. So if you know someone who suffers from this, or if you find someone in this situation, try and keep them hydrated to help them regulate your body temperature, whether you're cold or hot. Water and general fluids will help you regulate, but also try and keep them warm or cold, whatever they need, or both. Sometimes you may need both. But I also struggled with things like textures. Like, my skin felt like sandpaper. It kind of felt like my senses were all hazy and blurred, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I was having a really hard time with, for example, my moisturizer. So because of the fibromyalgia, and because I have pretty dry skin anyway, I always moisturize to help my skin feel less yucky, and it kind of felt like the cream was heavy, because my perception of things was so altered that I couldn't accept that there was like something on my face, on my hands, that sort of stuff. So I mean, as a general rule of thumb, if you know someone who gets dizzy easily or dazed, or who actually has fainting problems associated with a chronic illness like this, help them out in that rebounds process. Like, don't sort of look down on it or ignore it, even if it happens often. Like, it is crucial, because those few moments after you come from that, depending on how long you've blacked out or how dazed you've been, they're super important for you to actually realize what the hell is happening around you, and for you to mitigate the damage that could potentially happen to your body. So just be gentle as usual, and I'm not saying be protective, but be attentive. That's the right word. Don't be overwhelming, but pay attention, help us out, give us pointers, give us guidance, because we are not going to be able to notice our own issues. We're going to need an external reference point, and that's going to be you. So that's how you can help us, and that's how, if you are going through this, you can find some help. So anyway, those are some things I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope they help somebody. I've called them anecdotes, but they're kind of like, they're actually quite important stuff. The issue, and the reason why I think they're anecdotes, is because like they are underneath the surface sort of level. Like, normally I focus on things that are like, as you have chronic illness, the first thing that happens, right? Like the first points of actions and calls that either we, the chronically ill, or those around us can address to help us out. But unfortunately, there are many layers to this. So sometimes when you've gone over all of those, you need to go a bit deeper. And these two are fairly common, and things that I know a lot of people struggle with. So maybe not so anecdotal, but anyway, they're there for you. Hopefully they will help you. I'm very happy to take any questions on this topic, as usual, particularly on the fainting side of things. I'm a fainting queen, so please don't feel scared of asking about my fainting experiences. But also on the exercise side of things, like I will not sugarcoat it. You guys know me. I will give you the legit breakdown of things as to how it feels, the impact that it has, and whatnot. And if you want to know from the other end, I'm sure that James would be more than happy to actually give his insight into it. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye!